Hello guys, welcome to tonight's webinar. And today I will talk about the middle school placement, math placement test. And since our last series, which is spoken by our teacher Michael, and on our first series, he introduced us a little bit about what is math placement test and why it's so important for the math placement test for our middle school kids. And today, follow up with that, I will most focus on the two school districts. The first school district will be the Cupertino Union School District, and the second school district will be the Fremont Unified School District. And just brief introduction of myself. My name is Amber, and I am the middle school teacher in our academy. And yeah, without further ado, let's just get started. So the first page is the code by our professor from the UCLA mathematics department. So when the expectation for middle school mathematics was about speed and accuracy for computation, it makes sense to accelerate in middle school and even skip grades. This no longer makes sense because middle school of mathematics is the key success for all students. So basically, this sentence is the conclusion of the tone of like the common core system we are applying or we are using in the middle school. So for the average middle school students, actually they are not very good at math. So if they want to actually succeed or actually pass the high school math, they need to make more effort onto it. So this is why they designed the common core math. So common core math actually we have a webinar about the common core math, which is presented by our teacher Grant. And in this webinar, he talked about what kind of topic is covered by our common core math, and for each grade of math, what common core look like, and you also compare the difference between the public school common core math path and the top private school curriculum. So if you are interested in learning more about the common core math, definitely check this out. And I'll also link this link in our description box. So yeah, feel free to check that out after this webinar. And yeah, as I just mentioned before, the average American students, they are actually not very good at math. So this common core is designed for them. So for the 6th and 7th and 8th grade, which we call it as a middle school, we actually go through the common core 1 and common core 2, common core 3. And for the 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, which is in our high school. So in the first year of the high school, we will actually learning the algebra 1, and in the sophomore year of the high school, we actually learning the geometry, and the 11th grade, we are actually learning the algebra 2 and trigonometry. Therefore, in the final year of the senior year, we are actually learning the pre-calculus. So actually, most parents has asked that how about calculus? Calculus is actually for the college courses. So it's actually for most of the high school kids in America, they're actually not learning calculus at all. And for qualify for the UC systems, they actually just need us to learn the 4 years math. So there's no need to take calculus at all in the high school. But this is just for the average kids. If we want our kids to be more advanced, if we want our kids to have a more higher performance on our user applications, so what do we need to do? We just need to consider maybe attending the accelerated path in our middle school, and therefore we have likely chance to actually take the honor courses or actually take the AP courses in middle school, because the honor courses and the AP courses are actually count as the GPA of 5, which will boost up your GPA a lot, which eventually you will look good on our UC applications. So today's I'll mainly just focus on the two districts, as I just mentioned before. So the first one would be the Cupertino Union School District, and I'll talk about the course progression of that and what kind of material, what kind of book they are using inside the classroom. And for the second part, I will talk about the Fremont Unified School District. And since this year, because of the coronavirus, because of the long distance learning, actually there's some new changes about the math placement test. So so I'll just explain more on that. So let's go to our first district, which is the Cupertino Union School District. As you can see on the right-hand side is the map of it. And if you are living inside the border of the map, yeah, you are definitely going to the And for the Cupertino Union School District, there are actually 6 middle school of it. And the first one is Cupertino Middle School, and the second one is Haight, Kennedy, Lawson Middle School, and Olive Middle School, and Miller Middle School. So actually there is one special middle school in here, which would be the Olive. Since others middle school are all conclude the 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade, but for Olive is actually starting from the kindergarten and all the way through 8th grade. So in this way, like most of your friends, most of your classmates are actually stick with you through the 8th grade. So in this way, you can actually make more friends of it. And if you want to learn more detail of each middle school what does each middle school look like in this Cupertino Union School District, we actually have another webinar that's presented by our teacher Wenxin. And this webinar is talking about the three most popular public school district in Bay Area. So he will talk about like the Palo Alto district, and also other 2 districts we are including today would be the Fremont Unified School District and the Cupertino Union School District. So in this webinar, teacher Wenxin will talk about like the teacher to student ratio and how many students are there and how many percentage of Asian students, etc. And he will also introduce us like what kind of program in that kind of middle school, and yeah, the advantage of that and the disadvantage of that. And yeah, after that, let's just move on to today's main topic. So I just want to tell you guys what is the course progression in our Cupertino Union School District. So this year is actually a little bit different from the previous year. As I know that previous year actually we have 2 different levels for the Math 6. The first one is Math 6 and the second one is called Math 6 Plus. But this year and the last year, because of the coronavirus, because of the long distance learning, actually they are placing all the 6th grade students into one courses, which they call it as Math 6 Plus. So if your kids are actually starting from the transition, like incoming grade 6, you don't need to worry about too much about the math placement test right now. But when do we need to worry about that? You will be at the end of the 6th grade. They actually have some kind of diagnostic assessment for it, and you will actually be separated into 3 levels. So the first one is 7 plus, and the last one, which is the farthest track, will include some kind of knowledge of algebra. And later on, move on to our 8th grade. We'll also have like 3 different levels, and I'll talk more detail about it in our next slides. So for the first one is our Math 6 Plus grade. So what they are actually learning the 6th grade Common Core Math with a portion of the 7th grade standards. And the reason of it is because of the COVID-19. As I mentioned before, like many students are staying at home, and the teacher is actually not the teaching is actually not that effective, and the students are less likely to learn the math well compared to actually physical learning inside the school. So this is a very good opportunity to bridge that gaps because of the COVID-19. So yeah, and for the textbook they are using, as you can see in the below, they are actually using the textbook called the Core Connection Course 1, 2, 3, and Algebra, Geometry, and Algebra 2. And this is for the college preparation mathematics, which is stand for CPN, which is what CPN stand for. Yeah. So for the first half of the math of the grade 6, they will introduce the chapter 1 to chapter 9 in connection 1, and on the second half of the semester, on the second half of the second half of the school year, they will introduce the Common Core Connection 2, which is the chapter 1 to 5. So this is basically the grade, basically what all the students will learn in their 6th grade in the Cupertino Union School District. And following up, so now it's kind of different. Like for the 7th grade math, it's actually divided into 3 paths. The first path is the regular path, and the second one is the fast path, and the last one with our faster path in here. So as you can see, for the 7th grade, it's actually include, like the first half of it is actually including in our 6th grade math. So this course is designed for those students who did not learn that well in our 6th grade. So 7th grade is actually the makeup time, make up the knowledge they are not getting it or they are not familiar with. And if the students have like more advanced knowledge or they are feeling very comfortable of what they have learned in 6th grade, so actually we'll recommend they go to the fast path, which is actually learning the Common Core 2, the chapter 6 and 9, and also the Common Core 3, chapter 1 to 10. And for the most advanced students, like they have already learned a lot of knowledge pre-head, so there's actually the faster track, or we call it the faster path, as I call it. And actually, they will have the chance to learn Algebra 1 in their 7th grade, which is on their second half of the 7th grade. And after that is our 8th grade. So the first one is still the regular path, which is continue to learning the Common Core 3, which is designed for the middle school systems. But for the fast path, actually they are learning, I think they are actually learning the connection, actually learning the same thing as the Algebra 1 and in the 7th grade. So actually it's the Connection 3 and then Connection Algebra knowledge. And for the faster path, they are actually learning the, besides of that, they're actually learning more advanced stuff in the geometry. So, yep. And that's basically it. So, what's the advantage, what's the disadvantage, what's the pros and what's the cons for a 7th grade placement test? So, instead of taking the placement test in the 6th grade, actually we have one more year for preparation. So, our kids, our students will have more time to practice for it and actually study for it, actually be well prepared. And as I know, maybe at the end of this year's COVID-19 will be over. Like we are no longer have the long distance learning. We actually can physically appear in the school and actually make up with our teacher, with our friends. So maybe this is an opportunity for them to relearn the math or like go back to the normal track. So this is what the 7th grade placement test is meant for. And the cons will be, since there's only one level in 6th grade, so they're actually very high peer pressure because all the talented kids and all the talented students are placed on the same courses, which means that it's really hard for you to get a good grade on each exam, on each assignment, because the teacher tend to like grade you extremely hard because like some teachers, as I know, they will like actually curve the students. Only the top 10% or only the top 20% of the student can actually get an A. So it's really hard to maintain a very good grade or very good GPA on the same level of the 6th grade. So I would say this is the cons for it. Like as I know, some middle school students may feel extremely stressful because like when they are like starting from the elementary school, like they just got straight A or they think they are really good at math, but after they went to middle school, they suddenly realize they're actually not that good. So as a parent, what can we do to help them? The only thing we can do is actually back up, like be their support, like back up for them, like just give them advice, like just tell them like, and don't worry, don't be panic. If you have any difficulty, feel free to tell us. We know the situation, like we know all the current thing happens in the world, around us. So don't need to worry at all, and just tell your kids something like that, and just let them feel less stressful. And yep. And and that will be all for the Cupertino Union School District. And after that, I will talk about our second part of our Fremont Unified School District. So in this year, actually, there's a little bit like new changes of the placement test policy, as you can, yeah. And later on, I will explain more on that. So the first page is the introduce us how many middle school in our Fremont Unified District. So the first three is junior high. And some students, some parents might not know the junior high. So actually, junior high is more likely to be the academic path. So the students that went to junior high is designed for better preparation for the high school. So they're more focused on the academic path and more focused on your math learning or your English learning. But for the middle school, it actually focus more on your creative part. So that's the difference between the junior high and the middle school. And the most significant difference just because the junior high only include the 2 grade, but the middle school include 3 grade. Yep. And yeah, let's see what the math pathway look like in our Fremont Unified School District. So it's the same thing as the Cupertino School District for the 6th grade. So 6th grade, they will all placed in the same courses, which is the Common Core 1, as I mentioned before, like you guys all know what's Common Core, right? And for the 7th grade, there's first acceleration path. Like you actually have the chance to choose, do you want to go to the accelerated path or you just stay on the normal path? So if you just stay on the normal path, as we can see here, is Common Core 1, Common Core 2, Common Core 3, Algebra 1, Geometry, Algebra 2, and Trig, and Pre-Calculus. And this is exactly the same page as I showed before, like I think it's the 3rd page of my PowerPoint. So this is what a normal American student's secondary math pathway look like. But if our kids or our students is a little bit advanced, they can actually design whether they want to go to the Common Core 2 or start their accelerated math on the 7th grade. And for the end of the 8th grade, they will also have, for the accelerated path students, they will also have the chance to choose either they just feel too stressful after this 2-year study. They just want to go back to the geometry and go back to the normal path. They can do that. But if they think that this is not challenging at all, like this, I can still handle it, they will just move on to the acceleration path, like their secondary acceleration path. So they will be keep on starting the geometry and the algebra 2 trig and then the pre-calculus. So 3 years materials in 2 years. And then in this way, they will actually have some chance to learn the AP Calculus AB or BC in their junior year and actually take the AP Calculus test. And for the senior year, they will have the chance to learn more, explore more math, like either the multivariable or discrete math. They can either take in college or just taking in high school. And also, AP Stat is kind of different. You don't, after you have finished pre-calculus, you can directly take the AP Stat. You don't need to take the calculus or AP Calculus at all. So yeah. So after I have mentioned the acceleration path, many of you might have a curious question what is accelerated math? What's the difference between the accelerated math and the normal math pathway? Here's the answers. So the accelerated math is actually, 2 years of school is actually including the 3 years of math. So this is the textbook that is currently using for the Fremont Unified School District. So as we can see is the course 1, is course 2 for design for the Common Core 2 and course 3 design for the Common Core 3. And the last year is Algebra 1. So actually they are taking one course from high school and move it previously to our middle school. And we can actually have the chance to take it during our middle school, which is 7th grade and 8th grade. So the most important thing I know that many of our students' parents have actually from China, so they actually go through the college placement test in China. So in order to be well prepared for the college placement test in China. So actually most of the high school, as I know, they will try to finish the first they try to finish the 3 years material in their first 2 years. So actually in the high school level 1 and high school level 2, you actually finish all the parts, and for the senior year and for the last year of the high school, you're actually just reviewing all the stuff. So this is kind of like that. We're just trying to finish 3 years of math in 2 years of school. So this means some part is similar. So this means that material, all the course knowledge or all the math content, you have to know it very well. They won't skip anything, just like what we have mentioned before, quoted from the UCLA mathematics. They are not skipping any grade, they are not skipping any material. If you want to go to accelerated math, just be prepared that the schoolwork will be much, much more intense. So actually, the kids or the students might ask their parents for more supplemental material, they need actual help for that. Yep. So here comes the fun part of the 7th grade placement test in our Fremont Unified School District. So the parents as students are being asked to make an informed choice in determining which class the students should enroll in. So what do they mean informed choices? Which means they just leave the choice to the parents, to the students, let them decide whether they want to go to accelerated math or not accelerated math. And what's the reason behind it? As I just keep mentioning again and again, is because the coronavirus, is because the long distance learning. Actually, some students may not have the chance to actually take the assessment test or other tests that can usually be considered as part of the part of points they decide whether you can actually enroll in the accelerated math or not. So in this way, the objective data and measure are limited. And the second reason would just be what I have mentioned before, what I have just told you, what is accelerated math look like. So accelerated math is actually not the same thing as the honor math we have used before the common core systems. So the honor math just means that you are still, for example, we have algebra 1, we have honor algebra 1. So what's the difference between that? The honor algebra 1 just means that we are actually learning more deep stuff in the algebra 1. It's just learn explore more on that, but we still focus on the same topic, which is algebra 1. But the accelerated math is actually combine the algebra 1, geometry and algebra 2 into 2 years. So actually you have to learn that in 2 years. Just giving an example of that. And yeah, so since the students are the school asks us to do the informed choice, so at least they have to give us some kind of information to let us decide, right? So this is the information they have given us. So the information they have given us is that they tell us what the most students doing well in accelerated math look like what kind of characteristics they look like they have. So the first one is, for the kids that actually got a B or A in the accelerated math, they actually scored 80% or higher on all the math assessment tests throughout their learning career, throughout the grade 1 to grade 6. And the second point is they have scored 4, which is considered exceeded standards on our California assessment of students' performance and progress math test, which is rather as shown as KSAP. They call it KSAP. And the third thing is actually turn back to the student itself. They really have the passion in learning math, and they know how to apply the math in real life, not just know how to solve the problem, and this is what I'm going to talk about in our 4 points. So actually, when you're doing some problem, you are not actually rely on the memorization. You are not actually rely on the memorize all the solving procedures. And next time we solve the same problem or same type of problem, you just apply that procedure. The most important thing of learning math is actually know what is the definition behind it. Why do we need to use certain formula, certain function for certain type of questions? So this is what we call the application of math. And the last thing is for students who actually doing well in the accelerated math is they actually have a very good study and organization habit. Like they are able to self-study, self-motivated. And yeah, so if you think that your kid is actually doing all 5 of them, and definitely just go to the accelerated math directly. Why not, right? Just give a try. And yeah, and let's see. So as I mentioned before, like a good study and organization habit is very important to be success in the accelerated math. So in here we also have a webinar that is given by our teacher, Grant, and he's talking about that like the 5 best middle school learning habit in his webinar. And the habit 5, as I take a screenshot here, is study learning early. So yeah, why not, right? Besides of that, I also have the sample math placement test that's given by the school. And I'll also link this link in our description box, so our parents will have a chance to actually take the sample test and see how well our students and our kids are perform on the sample test. So in order to success in accelerated math, they actually give us standards. Like if you score like 16 out of 20, which is 80% or higher in this math placement test, they think you are actually you are well prepared. Well prepared. Just go directly to the accelerated math. So actually, I am not listing here. So for the range between like the 12 to the 16 score is like in the average, like maybe you can take it, but I'm not sure if you can success or not. But yeah, why not give a try, right? Just as I mentioned before, like for the student who scored 12 or below, definitely just not doing the accelerated math. The first thing is it might ruin your GPA, and the second thing, you are not that prepared for it, and you might lose all the interest of learning math if you go to the accelerated math. Like suddenly you feel like you are not that smart, like all the kids around you are smarter than you. Like yeah, so like just as I mentioned before, like accelerated math is not the best choice for all the students. So you need to make the smart choice by yourself. So the parents and the student need to make the smart choice by themselves. Yeah. So yeah, this is the reason why the Fremont school district actually allowed our parents and our students to choose the accelerated pathway by themselves, to choose either they want to take it or not. It's because they actually have some kind of standards. So the student must be able to maintain a grade of at least B to remain in the accelerated math path, or else they will just be kicked out of the accelerated math. So they just go back to the regular path or the normal path, like the normal American students. So yeah, and once you're being kicked out, you actually have you don't really have much chance to get back in, because as we state in our second bullet point here, so actually there's only 2 chances for students to demonstrate their readiness for the accelerated pathway, which the first one is at the end of the 6th grade, and the second one is at the end of 9th grade. This is because of the characteristic of the accelerated math. So actually we are taking the 3 years material into 2 years. So actually, if you kids are in the normal pathway, they are actually half year behind the accelerated math path. So the school are afraid that if you are just taking normal math path, you may not able to catch up with the accelerated math. So they just don't allow it at all. So yeah. So if you want to go to the accelerated math path, just be prepared. It will be very competitive, because all the kids in general saying that either Cupertino, both Cupertino school district and the Fremont district are very competitive school district. Even though it's public school, some parents might think that public school should be easier than private school. Actually, it's not, because the private school has more population than public school actually have more population than the private school, which means even though if we see in the percentage, only 5% public school kids are actually smarter than the 10% of the private school kids. I just make an example in here. It's not just an example here, but yeah, but if we multiply the percentage with the overall population, we can realize that actually there are a lot of people in the public school which are really good at math. So if you decide to go to the accelerated math path, and you can find out that it's really like it's not that easy to get an A or B. So yeah, just leave all the decision to our parents and students, like whether you want to take it, the accelerated math or not. Just yeah, make a wise choice. Yeah, so let's just move on to the end of this webinar. So on our last page, or the second to the last page, here I just list some of the commonality and the difference between the Cupertino Union School District and the Fremont Unified School District. So the commonality is because of the coronavirus, because of COVID-19, because of the long distance learning, there are only one grade for the 6th grade, one level for the 6th grade. So all the students are being placement to the same levels. But the difference would be actually for the Cupertino Union School District, there are 3 levels of it for the 7th grade and the 8th grade. And you actually have the chance to get into either ones, like in the middle of the, in the summer or in between the 7th grade and the 8th grade. But for the Fremont Unified District, they are actually using the accelerated math path. As we just mentioned before, accelerated math path just means that 3 years material in 2 years. So there's actually no much chance that you can get in between these 2 years. So this is the difference. And to our last pages, which is also the end of the webinar. So coming up in our middle school team, we will have some kind of basic pre-algebra courses for the grade 5 plus students, and we'll also have more webinars on most of the Bay Area school district. As you guys can see in today's, I didn't mention too much about the placement test of the Cupertino School Union District. Is because they are not coming up yet. Like they are still, like the school are still considering it and still talking about it, but they actually, I have asked them like when is the exact time that the policy will come out, and they reply is like they will try to finalize it within the 2 weeks. So as long as I got a result, we will have more webinars on that and keep us to be updating. And also maybe I'll also comment in our YouTube channels to let the people to let our parents be informed. Yeah. And there will also be more about how to prepare for the placement test. Yeah. So basically, this is all, and this is the end of our webinar. So if you guys have like more questions of it, like if you want to directly talk with me or with our crew, and you can actually scan the QR code here, and which is here. And also don't forget to subscribe us, because we have more following webinar coming in our YouTube channels. Yeah, and that's it. And thank you guys for actually spending time, like the valuable Saturday night, spending time with me and listening to me about all the things happening about the math placement test in our Dist 2 district. And thank you guys.